You are watching Inside the Americas. Coming up, is 5G really dangerous for airports? The three biggest American airlines seem to think so. Reaction from technology policy expert Roslyn Layton on the way. Then this January 20th marks Joe Biden's first anniversary as President of the United States. We'll take a closer look at how he's doing so far. And after attacks on anti-vaxxers, Canada's come up with a new way to push people to get the jab, making it a requirement to buy alcohol in Quebec. I'm Jeannie Godula. First up, our picture of the week. This shot from Pittsburgh shows at least one person who tried to make the best of all the ice and snow that hit the east coast of the United States this week. But for many others, the situation was a lot less fun. The storm reached from the southern U.S. all the way up to Canada, where it provoked blackouts, school closures, and the cancellation of thousands of flights. In the worst hit areas, more than 60 centimeters fell in one go. That's almost 2 feet of snow. Now, the rollout of 5G service may seem like a great thing to those device lovers of you out there, but for some international airlines, it's a worry. A big enough worry to push American phone carriers AT&T and Verizon to agree to a partial delay in activating their 5G networks in the U.S. this week. Monty Francis explains.
Mobile giants AT&T and Verizon have temporarily grounded their 5G service near some airport runways. For the third time, the companies which have spent billions of dollars to upgrade to 5G bowed to concerns of airlines that the signals could interfere with airplane navigation systems. AT&T complained that regulators have had 2 years to get ready for 5G, saying in a statement, "We are frustrated by the Federal Aviation Administration's inability to do what nearly 40 countries have done, which is to safely deploy 5G technology without disrupting aviation services, and we urge it to do so in a timely manner." The White House responded.
Our objective is, of course, to reach a solution around 5G deployment that maintains the highest level of safety while minimizing disruptions to passenger travel.
This past Sunday, the FAA said it had cleared 45% of commercial flights in the U.S. to land at airports where 5G service will be in use. Airlines warned that thousands of flights would be grounded if the rollout went ahead as planned. The worries center around what's called the C-band service, used by 5G to bring faster speeds and broader coverage. Airlines say there isn't enough of a buffer between the C-band and the frequency used by airplanes to measure altitude. Despite those safety concerns, 5G service is already in use near airports in much of the EU and in South Korea, so far without any issue.
Well, to break this down for us now, let's bring in technology policy expert Roslyn Layton. Roslyn, thank you so much for joining us. There's already 5G here in France, throughout much of Europe for that matter. Why all this furor in the United States?
What's important to know is that 5G has been available in the U.S. since 2019, and it continues on a number of other frequencies, not the particular slice that we're talking about here. This slice is important because it has certain properties that can allow data to be transmitted over a long distance, a high throughput, and that's really great. In fact, this very same frequency is being used in Japan without problem at all, and in fact, with lesser mitigation that has been proposed in the U.S. So what we have here is sort of an old-fashioned dispute between regulatory agencies about who's boss. And unfortunately, consumers are getting the short end of the stick.
So what exactly happens next? Where do we go from here?
Well, as you mentioned in your story, the American 5G providers have proposed a series of mitigations which would lower the power levels around airports and change some transmissions. In addition to a guard band, which is 200 megahertz. That's twice what the aviation industry said they need. So they have already more than enough safety. In fact, the U.S. is now going to be the world's safest country for 5G around airports. But we keep seeing that as the mobile 5G providers offer a solution, the aviation providers say, no, that's not enough. So there's a bit of brinkmanship. And the bottom line here is that the old altimeters, which your article described, this is the equipment that measures the distance to the ground from the plane, a lot of them are outdated and obsolete, and they want to get a payment to upgrade those altimeters. And instead of organizing themselves and keeping an international standards process so they have the state of the art equipment. So rather than paying for these new equipment, they want to have someone else pay for it. Unfortunately, that is what this has come down to. It's not about safety, it's about a payout.
So how are the 5G providers responding to all of this?
Well, they have been very forthcoming in terms of offering all of the technical requirements that have been requested. They are offering the data that is needed to independently verify this question. I think this is a case where we can look to France because they were aware of this situation 2 years ago, in fact, and they immediately conducted the empirical tests to verify that there would not be a problem in France. But the FAA, which has really come under pressure in recent years because of a number of failings on the regulatory front, they are looking for a distraction on which to blame their problems.
All right, Rosalind, thanks so much for sharing your expertise with us. Roslyn Layton, a technology policy expert from Strand Consult. Also this week in the U.S., Joe Biden marked his first anniversary as president of the United States. Our Inside the Americas team takes a look back now at the highs and the lows so far, and there have been quite a few lows. 1 year in, Biden has the second lowest approval rating of any president in U.S. history.
He kicked things off with ambition, a pledge to build back better. Joe Biden had big plans to reform U.S. infrastructure, its environmental policy, and to boost economic recovery in the wake of the pandemic.
I'm sending a clear message to the world. America is back.
The newly elected president backed up that bombastic claim with hard cash. Biden managed to secure $1.2 trillion for a revised infrastructure deal, yet other projects have been stalled in the Senate. So just what has he achieved so far? Biden's mass vaccination campaign may be a point of pride, but with the Omicron variant sweeping the country, daily COVID infections are currently at record levels. More people are now hospitalized in the US than at any previous point during the pandemic. The US military withdrawal from Afghanistan last year also came as a major blow, as the Taliban's immediate takeover led to chaotic scenes, with 13 American forces killed in a bomb at Kabul's airport. As for international relations elsewhere, American attempts at diplomacy with Russia have thus far failed to quell tensions with Ukraine. When it comes to the economy, unemployment has gone down and the average salary has inched up by almost 5%. But inflation is at its highest in almost 40 years. Americans are feeling the pinch, and approval ratings for their sitting president have dipped to under 40%. 1 year after he took up residence in the White House, Biden admitted it's been a rough time, but he's reassured Americans that he's still on track.
There's a lot of talk about disappointments and things we haven't gotten done. We're going to get a lot of them done, I might add.
America's 46th president came to power just days after the riots at the U.S. Capitol, which many saw as demonstrative of deep divisions within the United States. Bringing unity to the nation then was top of his agenda, yet it's been a serious challenge, even within his own camp.
And I think that Biden underestimated how difficult it would be to bring together all the factions within the Democratic Party, for sure.
With intra-party sticking points on key climate and social policy bills that Biden's hoping to pass, those political divisions are likely to be played out in the midterm elections later this year, meaning that things may get even rockier for the US president in 2022.
One of Biden's new policies brings us to our number of the week. To boost COVID testing, the Biden administration has just launched a website allowing every U.S. home to order 4 free at-home COVID-19 tests. In addition, American insurance companies now have to pay for up to 8 auto tests a month for every covered person in a household. That's a big financial help for many in the U.S. where healthcare is private and comes at a premium. The Biden administration is preparing to give away 400 million N95 masks as well at health centers and pharmacies across the U.S. That's after the CDC updated its mask guidance to say cloth masks do not offer as much protection as surgical ones. Now, Canada is continuing its fight against anti-vaxxers. After the tax on the unvaccinated we told you about last week, the country has found a new way to push people to get the jab. As of this week in Quebec, you'll need to be vaccinated if you want to purchase both cannabis and alcohol.
Fantastique. Bonne journée, bon magasinage.
Without a vaccine passport in Quebec, you can no longer buy wine and liquor in these government-run stores. It's an unprecedented measure since the pandemic started, targeting those who don't want to get the COVID vaccine.
It's their choice. They're free to do whatever they want.
There's a vaccine pass, there's pros and cons of both. So I'll go with what the experts think is the right call here.
If you choose not to keep the rest of society safe and respect your fellow citizens, then you lose privileges, as simple as that.
The next measure to be implemented will be restricting access to big box stores. This sports store owner says it's unfair.
Stores with surfaces larger than 1,500 square meters represent maybe 5 to 10% of businesses here in Quebec, so 90% remain accessible. It's an unfair and arbitrary measure. It's a measure that penalizes big box stores without any scientific data.
Quebec's premier disagrees. He plans to take restrictions even further and impose a health tax for the unvaxxed to finance the extra strain they are putting on the health network.
Even if just 10% of adults are not vaccinated in Quebec, they are taking 50% of beds in intensive care. We are currently working on a health contribution that will be charged to all Quebec adults who refuse to be vaccinated.
Since the new measures were announced, 20,000 Quebecers have received their first dose of the COVID-19 vaccine.
That wraps it up for this edition. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you again next time for all the news from north to south.